Today I'm going to explain you something about the interpersonal meaning of behavior, and more in particular the interpersonal meaning of non-verbal behavior. When talking about behavior, and more in particular the communicative impact of behavior, you can look at two things. First of all, at the content, and the content is about what people say, what you say. At the moment I'm saying words, and from these words you can deduce all kinds of meanings. But behavior also conveys an interpersonal message, and that interpersonal message relates to how you are perceived. And to be able to talk about how people perceive each other, we need a language. And that language basically consists of two dimensions that are both necessary and sufficient to discuss how people perceive each other. Well, these dimensions, because it's two and they are independent, can be plotted as a system of access. And the first of these dimensions is an agency dimension, and with this dimension you can describe the level of, for instance, dominance, control, influence a person has in a communicative situation with others. The second dimension is often referred to as the communion dimension, and the communion dimension says something about how likable, how friendly, how interpersonally close you are to someone. So it's more of a general likability dimension, the horizontal one, and the other one is more about influence people have on each other. For instance, at this moment, and that's important to understand, I suppose, is at this very moment I'm talking to you. You're not actually here, but Luce is here, and I can say that I'm talking to Luce at the moment. I'm trying to explain things to you. I try to do that in a, I hope, a little bit friendly way. So you could say that my position in this system of access is a little bit to the right of the agency dimension. So in the upper corner and then a little bit to the right. So high level of agency because I'm talking and Luce is listening to me, and actually being here and trying to record this particular clip is something that you could scale a little bit on the communion side. Another option would be that I talk to you in this way, like I'm sorry, for me it's a little bit difficult to talk in English, and Luce asked me to do this, and it feels a little bit awkward to do this on television. You could say that I almost seem to be intimidated, so I'm very low on the agency dimension, and because I may be a little bit scared of the situation, I'm a little bit to the left-hand side of the agency dimension. So in the lower corner, the lower left-hand corner of the model, you could say. Another thing that I could do is that I say, for instance, now I'm directing myself to Luce. Luce, it's been a while that we've been here now. It took some time to set up this whole thing. Why are you laughing? There's nothing funny here. Well, if I would do that for a couple of minutes, Luce, yeah, well, you can't see Luce at the moment, but she really feels very uncomfortable. Now she's actually laughing. But I'm very high on the agency dimension and also very low on the likability, on the communion dimension. So actually, it's all these messages that I convey in these particular moments have something to do with the words that I say, but also very much with the non-verbal behavior that I use. And if you look at non-verbal behavior, very often certain channels, certain parts of non-verbal behavior are distinguished that help you explain what these non-verbal behaviors actually do. And that's the use of space, body, using gestures for instance, my facial expression, am I laughing or am I trying to use my eyebrows for instance to emphasize things like that. The eye contact I make, I'm looking at the camera right now, so I do have eye contact with you, but also my voice. For instance, how I'm talking now, I'm using gestures just to emphasize my message. if I would come closer to the camera, that would give certainly some kind of an effect. If I was a friendly person, it might emphasize the effect. But if I'm an unfriendly person, it might be even more intimidating if I approach you. So the use of space in nonverbal behavior is important as sort of an amplifier of the things that you do. The same works for eye contact, for instance. If I look at you directly, the kind of contact that I make is more intense than if I would look at something else. So these things emphasize the things that I do. And the facial expression that I use and the words that I say more or less give the sign. Is it high on communion or low on communion? So all these things are important to be more empathically there. Now I'm talking just like this. If I would be very low on agency, a little bit like what I tried to demonstrate to you, like, I'm very sorry, I would avoid contact, so my level of intensity would be very low. My body position would be a little bit closed, like this, and my breath would be rather high, so that would be a part of the use of my voice that does really communicate being uncertain, being very low on agency. For instance, this very high breath makes me look very uncertain. On the other hand, if I would be very high on agency, I would make myself a little bit broader than I maybe even am, and I would look at Lucy still sitting there, look like this. And then the silence is very important too. So, I only say words very clearly and not too many. I don't have to yell. Well, I hope this gives you sort of an idea, because it would take too long to go through all the specific nonverbal behaviors that are important for conveying interpersonal messages, but it does give you some idea, I hope, about the impact of nonverbal behavior and how people perceive each other. Thank you very much.